Can we talk about playing the changes for a minute? It is a phrase you hear a lot in jazz circles, and it often sounds super intimidating and complex. But here is the thing. While it certainly involves a deep understanding of music theory and improvisation, the core concept itself is actually quite accessible once you break it down. It is less about mystical talent and more about a systematic approach to musical storytelling. Let us peel back the layers and see what it truly means. Now, if your initial thought, like many, is that playing the changes simply means sticking to the notes of the underlying chord, just arpeggiating them, perhaps you are not entirely wrong. That is definitely part of the foundation. Imagine building a house. You need a strong base. Playing the chord tones provides that harmonic grounding, ensuring your solo feels connected to what the rest of the band is doing at any given moment. However, if that was all there was to it, jazz would not sound nearly as rich or interesting. It would be a bit like coloring by numbers without any flair. Jazz is full of chromaticism, tension, and release those outside notes that make you lean forward and listen intently. So, while chord tones are vital, they are just the starting point, a canvas upon which you paint a much more intricate picture. The real magic happens when you venture beyond the obvious. It starts with understanding what the changes actually are. In jazz, the changes refers to the chord progression, the sequence of chords that forms the harmonic skeleton of a song. Think of it as the emotional and structural roadmap. Each chord has a specific sound, a specific feel, and a specific set of notes that define it. As these chords change, the harmonic landscape shifts, guiding the improviser's choices. At the most fundamental level, we have chord tones. These are the notes that directly make up the chord, the root, third, fifth, and often the seventh. For a C major 7 chord, that is, C, E, G, and B, these notes are inherently inside. They sound stable and agreeable over the chord. They are like the main characters in your musical story, always feeling at home. The key is to not just play these notes in a robotic fashion, but to use them as anchors. They provide a sonic certainty, a home base from which you can explore. When you hear a great jazz soloist, you might not consciously register every chord change, but your ear feels the progression because the soloist is highlighting those essential harmonic points. These building blocks are what make the solo sound grounded and intentional, rather than random. But jazz often goes beyond just those core 4 notes. We also have what are called extensions or upper partials, the 9th, 11th, and 13th. These are also considered inside the chord, but they add color, richness, and sophistication. They are like adding spices to a dish. They enhance the flavor without changing the fundamental ingredient. A C major 9, for example, adds a D, giving it a slightly sweeter, more complex sound. What happens next is crucial guide tones. These are typically the 3rd and 7th of a chord. Why are they so important? Because they define the quality of the chord major, minor, dominant, and they often move smoothly from one chord to the next, creating a sense of forward motion. They are the signposts that clearly indicate where the harmony is going, making the progression audible even if you strip away everything else. This smooth movement between guide tones is a key part of what we call voice leading. It is about connecting the individual notes of your solo across chord changes in the most melodic and logical way possible. Imagine a conversation where each sentence flows naturally into the next. Good voice leading does the same for musical phrases, making the solo feel coherent and easy to follow for the listener. This leads to a solo that does not just sound like a random string of notes, but a thoughtfully constructed melody. When a musician has mastered voice leading, their lines sound inevitable, almost predestined. Each note seems to lead perfectly to the next, guiding your ear through the harmonic twists and turns of the song without you even realizing it. It is a subtle art, but incredibly powerful in its effect. Beyond individual chord tones, musicians also think in terms of scales and modes. Each chord, or even a short progression of chords, often implies a particular scale or mode that fits over it. For example, a C major 7 might suggest a C Lydian scale, or a G7 could call for a G Mixolydian. These scales provide a broader palette of notes that are generally harmonious with the underlying chord. Now imagine combining those chord tones and extensions with appropriate scales. Instead of just picking individual notes, you are now navigating melodic landscapes specific to each chord. It is like having a different set of pathways for each section of your journey. This approach allows for much more fluid and continuous melodic lines, giving the improviser more options while still sounding correct over the harmony. But here is where jazz gets truly spicy, the outside concept. This refers to using notes that are not strictly within the current chord or scale. These are often chromatic notes, meaning they are outside the diatonic scale but used strategically to create tension and interest. It is like stepping outside the lines for a moment, creating a momentary dissonance that grabs the listener's attention. And here is the cool part. This tension is not just for shock value. It is a deliberate technique designed to create a feeling of anticipation. Imagine watching a suspenseful movie. The tension builds, making you wonder what will happen next. In music, outside notes do precisely that. They create a temporary imbalance, a question mark in the listener's ear, setting up the expectation for a resolution. The resolution is key. After creating that tension with an outside note, the improviser skillfully resolves back to an inside note, typically a chord tone or a strong extension of the current or next chord. This movement from tension to release is incredibly satisfying to the ear. It is the musical equivalent of solving a puzzle or a sigh of relief after a moment of suspense, making the inside notes sound even sweeter. The foundation is often built using a technique called enclosures. This is when you approach a target chord tone by surrounding it with chromatic notes, either from above and below, or two notes from one side. It adds a slippery, sophisticated feel to a line, leading the ear directly to a strong harmonic point. Think of it as decorating the path to your destination with elegant flourishes. These enclosures are a hallmark of bebop and post-bop jazz improvisation. They do not just land on a note, they arrive at it with style and purpose, creating a sense of melodic contour and rhythmic propulsion. They make a line sound less like a simple scale fragment and more like a carefully crafted statement, adding layers of complexity and interest that really engage the listener. Let us begin with a crucial point often overlooked: rhythm. Playing the changes is not just about selecting the right notes, it is profoundly about when you play them. The rhythmic placement, the syncopation, the swing, these are just as vital as the melodic choices. A perfectly chosen note can fall flat if its rhythm is uninspired, while a simpler note can soar with compelling rhythmic delivery. The swing feel is particularly distinctive to jazz. It is that infectious forward momentum, that slight delay in anticipation on certain beats that makes you want to move. A soloist playing the changes effectively will not only outline the harmony, but will also imbue their lines with this rhythmic vitality, making the music dance. It is the difference between reading words off a page and delivering a captivating speech. As we move forward, consider anticipation and delay. Sometimes, a soloist will play a note from the next chord slightly before the actual chord change, creating a delightful sense of leading. Other times, they might delay a note, building suspense before resolving it on the beat. These subtle rhythmic shifts add an immense amount of sophistication and surprise to an improvisation, making it unpredictable and fresh. Ultimately, the goal of playing the changes is to tell a melodic story that perfectly fits the harmonic landscape of the song. Each phrase, each line, should feel like a coherent sentence within a larger narrative. It is not just about hitting the right notes. It is about crafting a compelling musical journey that takes the listener from beginning to end, with all the emotional peaks and valleys. This involves thoughtful phrasing, how you group notes into musical ideas, how you use space, and where you breathe, even on an instrument without lungs. Good phrasing gives a solo its human quality, making it sound conversational and natural rather than mechanical. It is the difference between speaking a dictionary and having a lively chat with a friend. Here is where it all comes together. Playing the changes is also about listening and interacting. A soloist is not playing in a vacuum. They are in a constant dialogue with the rhythm section, the piano, bass, and drums. The rhythm section is also playing the changes, providing the harmonic and rhythmic foundation that the soloist builds upon, reacts to, and sometimes even challenges. What is fascinating is how the rhythm section supports and inspires. The bassist outlines the root movement, the pianist adds harmonies and voicings, and the drummer provides rhythmic texture. These elements create a rich tapestry that the soloist can weave their melodic lines through, allowing them to take more risks, knowing they have a solid backing. It is a true team effort, where everyone is playing the changes. This leads us to the indispensable skill of developing your ear. To truly play the changes, you need to hear them. This means being able to instantly recognize the quality of a chord, where it is leading, and which notes will sound in or out against it. It is an internal understanding, not just a theoretical one. Your fingers might know the patterns, but your ear is the ultimate guide. Taking it further, many great jazz musicians can literally sing the changes in their head before they even play them. They internalize the sound of each chord progression so deeply that they can hear the harmonic movement and melodic possibilities without needing an instrument. This is the culmination of years of practice and listening, transforming abstract theory into intuitive musicality. So, how do you practice this? It involves dedicated study, practicing arpeggios of all chord types, running scales and modes over different progressions, and learning specific jazz patterns that help connect notes smoothly. It is like a language learner memorizing vocabulary, grammar rules, and common phrases, all essential tools for fluent conversation. The big reveal is that transcribing solos from legendary jazz musicians is one of the most effective ways to learn playing the changes. By painstakingly figuring out what icons like Charlie Parker or John Coltrane played over specific progressions, you absorb their melodic vocabulary, rhythmic ideas, and harmonic insights directly. It is like having a master mentor whispering secrets into your ear. The ultimate purpose of playing the changes is to make the underlying harmony audibly clear and compelling through your solo. The listener, even if untrained, should be able to hear and feel the movement of the chords, even if they cannot name them. It is about providing a clear, engaging narrative that respects and enhances the song's harmonic structure. Think about it. Jazz improvisation is often described as controlled freedom. You are free to express yourself, but within the framework of the chord changes. This structure is not a limitation, it is a launch pad. It provides the context that makes your creative choices meaningful, allowing you to build tension, create beauty, and tell a story that truly resonates with the listener. This means every note you choose is a decision. Is it a chord tone for stability? An extension for color? A chromatic passing tone for tension? An enclosure for elegance? A guide tone for direction? Each choice, when made consciously and artfully, contributes to the overall coherence and emotional impact of your improvisation. It is a continuous, real-time composition. Adding to that, you can think of playing the changes as learning to speak a language fluently. First, you learn the alphabet notes, then vocabulary chords, scales, then grammar voice leading, harmony. Eventually, you can have a deep, nuanced conversation, express complex ideas, and even tell jokes all within the rules of the language, but with immense creativity. It is this mastery that allows jazz musicians to convey a vast range of emotions, from joy and exuberance to melancholy and introspection, all while remaining tethered to the underlying structure. The ability to express deeply felt musical ideas through the lens of harmonic progression is what makes playing the changes such a profound and captivating art form. The takeaway? Playing the changes is much more than just hitting the right notes. It is an intricate dance between harmony and melody, rhythm and expression. It is about understanding the harmonic roadmap, utilizing chord tones and extensions as anchors, strategically employing outside notes for tension and release, and crafting a coherent, rhythmically alive melodic narrative. It is the art of guiding the listener through the song's emotional and structural journey with skill, intention, and profound musicality.